I really like to do these forecasts to help me position myself to have a major week. And from a glance, it looked like, this week is all good and all roses, no pun intended, but we have some powerful alignments with Venus. Venus conjunct in the North Node, Venus also conjunct in Saturn this week before we have a beautiful new moon in Taurus. But when you actually look at the charts day by day, it tells a very different picture, and the sun is going to have a very difficult journey during this Taurus space. Now, it does get quiet, it does get, less sticky or less rocky. Let's use some earthy adjectives here. It might get a bit rocky. However, this first week is gonna be quite interesting, so let's dive into it. And I mean, it already started quite interesting with the death of the Pope. Now this is going to, well, has already sent shockwaves across the planet. And we're probably gonna cover this in more depth in another video, but it's gonna be a whole process of celebrating his life, commemorating the Pope, laying him to rest, and then finding a new pope, having the election or whatever, the voting to have a new pope. So the Taurus season already started off with a bang. So let's see how the rest of this week is gonna go day by day and try to make a sense of it. Mosquitoes killing me. Anybody know a good mosquito repellent remedy? Let me know, because these mosquitoes yamming me. Why? Alright, so April 22nd. Here looking at the chart right now, and you're just seeing red lines. Now, if you're used to looking at the astrological chart, you know that the red lines, the thick ones, or the squares, or the inconjunctions, or the more difficult, the oppositions, the more difficult aspects. We have Sun squaring Pluto. Lord have mercy. Now a squaring off, conflict, confrontation, tension. Sun being what our mind is paying attention to, what we are focused on, what we are giving our energy and vitality to, which should be birth and nurturing and creating, those conducive conditions for our growth and for our stability. But Pluto wants to break something. Pluto wants to destroy something. Pluto is saying faulty foundations. Pluto is saying faulty foundations. So you got to make a change. And so it's either you intentionally make the change, which Tauruses don't like to do. So that's why this is a difficult aspect. This is why this is a square aspect. Tauruses ain't really like to change. They're like stable, right? They're like stable conditions. And so Pluto wants to break something, and he's saying like the foundations that you're building on, because again, Taurus deals with foundation, and the roots and the value. So Pluto is saying shaky foundations. We got to break something down. So look out for something to break down. Pluto being in Aquarius, early degrees, 3 degrees Aquarius. Aquarius is our networking, our affiliations, our associations, but also that innovative, progressive element that we have, where we want to rebel and really, change things so we could move forward. Taurus slowing down, Moon is also here, but yeah, Pluto wants to make a change. So maybe how we socialize, maybe how we connect with other people, maybe just our innovative endeavors and ideas. Pluto wants to radicalize it, you know what I'm saying? Or not radicalize it, that's the wrong word. I can't even use the word on the internet comfortably. but transform it, evolve it in some way, shape, or form. No, Pluto is going to go retrograde some point in this Taurus season. So there are things that Pluto wants us to relearn as well. Everybody should know in their life where they need to change, and I guess astrologically, if you want to look at it through the lens of astrology, you should get a natal reading to see what house you have this Pluto, Aquarius, placement happening, so you know where specifically in your life you need to be looking out for. But that's the major alignment. Again, Pluto, right, in Aquarius 3 degrees is going to be opposing Mars in Leo 2 degrees. In a few days it's going to head 3 degrees, but it's almost there, so we can't count it out as well. Mars being that passionate, forceful energy that wants to be center stage. You want to be in the thick and in the mix of something, and Pluto is saying, hey, you know what I'm saying, maybe you got to not be. Aquarius is like, okay, let me see if I could point a good Aquarius Leo story, or paint a nice picture for you guys. Mars or Leo is like a stage, right? Front stage. We on a big stage, music festival, Coachella, where they're saying things about Palestine and Israel or whatever. You know what Green Day did at Coachella, right? No, Aquarius is like the background, the backstage, you know what I'm saying? Or the front of house, where you have all the music engineers and the crew that really set up the stage for the artists or the performers. And so Mars wants to be forceful on stage and have the center stage, like an artist going on the stage to perform. Mars is giving you the gas to be at the forefront or the center of whatever circumstance or situation or field that you're in. But Pluto is in the background saying, hey, we need to change the things that are happening in the background. We need to, break things down. We need a whole different system. We are using outdated speakers and outdated technology or belief systems or whatever. So Mercury is behind it, ripping stuff out the walls and breaking stuff down and saying, yeah, we're gonna buy new stuff, updated technology. We gotta get updated stuff. But Mars is on the stage performing, and it just reminds me of, like, I think there was a story where some stadium collapsed, so people are on the stage performing, or DJs playing and the stage just collapsing. You know what I mean? That type of situation, because whatever is happening backstage, Pluto is just death, destruction, doom and gloom, because we need new infrastructure, we need new technologies, we need new innovative means of transmuting our ideas. And so we got to look out for that placement. We also have Sun opposing Lilith. I think Lilith is expressed more personal, but again, just, that more raw feminine energy of what you want deep down at a very core. And it's opposing Taurus, that deals with value and what you want and what you really value. So I think this is a good alignment for just personal growth and trying to, because in life, especially with social media and technology, there's so many things that you could want in career, in finance, in love, in business. So Lilith kind of speaks to that most primal feminine, instinct of what you want from even a sexual level, but just a deep rooted, this is me to my core. This is my nakedness. This is my real truth. This is what I really, really, really want. I really, really want to be like a rock star. You know what I'm saying? And I peered deep into the onion layers of all of my other delusions, and identified that being a rock star is what I really need to do in order to feel in control, as an example. All right, and so we progress April 23rd. I don't how do we describe this as an astrologer, but this is like a deadly square. I ain't gonna tell no lie, because you have Mars in Leo. Mars being that forceful energy, the drive, the gas, the soldier. Go, go, go. Squaring off with Lilith. Lilith is not as dominant, but we still have to factor it in. Lilith squaring Aquarius, Aquarius opposing Leo, Leo a minus square to the sun. Like the square was stronger when the sun was 2 degrees, but it's losing the intensity. But that's like a major square. Like if you really look at it, like that's a major square. And so we got to look at this week as like an intense week where sun wants to slow down. We're really paying attention to our value systems, but Mars is just wants to be the center stage, wants to have the attention. Lilith is digging deep for power and control as well, so a bit of a struggle there. And Pluto is just breaking things down, especially when it comes to how we think and how we process and transmute information, how we communicate, how we socialize, who we socialize with. Has a lot to do with like the air element, it Pluto being in Aquarius. And so sun needs to be nurturing something, and it's going to be knocked off the course because you need to slow down, but Mars wants you to be you to the fullest. Mars wants you to be beautiful. Mars wants you to dance and show off, right? But sun needs to slow down and take care of something. And Aquarius, Pluto wants to rip something up. So we're looking at that there as a bit of a challenge. Moon being in Pisces, Moon likes to be there, but Moon is a bit more dreamy, intuitive. Moon just wants to even maybe just take a rest, and just focus on the ideals, that more beauty side of it. But I think we're gonna be being ruffled by having to perform and making changes to our backroom staff, or how we just facilitate our performances. Yeah. April 24th, Sun slides out of the intense square it was having with Pluto, also slides out of the square it was having with Mars in Leo. So I think just on that note, we get to breathe. However, there's still this major trine square. I don't even know, what do they call these? The arrow or whatever. But we got Mars opposing Pluto, and squaring up with Lilith in Scorpio. So Sun gets a break. We could get to nurture and take care of things. We do have some other minor alignment. Moon is in the mix, conjuncting Node, Saturn, Venus. You could also say slightly conjuncting Neptune in Aries. So again, Moon wants to be nice and cozy here, bringing in, our artistic, spiritual, intuitive, sensual side, our loving side. That's what we want. Mars, what was I saying about Mars? Saturn is here as well, limits, boundaries. But Pisces is the dissolver, so maybe dissolving a bit of boundaries and limitations, and maybe our mood could get the best of us, more on the 24th. Our moods could get the best of us because Pisces could get into its shadow, which is just letting your guards down, being emotionally immature and not disciplined, and kind of letting your guards down, Venus being there as well, wanting to feel nice, wanting to feel balanced, don't want to really go too hard, you know. So mood might get the better of us on that day. That's what I would look out for. Just being moody and acting more on your mood versus on your plan. All right, let's fast forward to April 25th. April 25th, we are going to experience Venus conjuncting Saturn. Again, we could see here 27 degrees, Venus conjuncting Saturn. Again, I think I spoke on this in the monthly forecast. And in my mind, Venus loves to be in Pisces. Yeah, Venus is all about harmony, pleasure, love, fulfillment, just being comfortable. And it could do that in Pisces. Saturn doesn't necessarily like to be here. Saturn brings in, discipline, stoicism, limits and boundaries. And so, again, we are in this Taurus theme of what is valuable, what is worth nurturing, what is worth taking care of, what is of value long term, what do we want to have long term, with this Lilith placement as well from a deep rooted standpoint. And so, Saturn again is helping us to be a bit disciplined. Limits and boundaries is like cutting off the fat, trimming down, the excess, and just looking at the real meats. What is the real meats of your essence and what you want from life. There's so many things that we could want and that could potentially fulfill us, but what truly really fulfills us, and how could we be a bit more disciplined? How could we limit ourselves from excess waste, and go for true nourishment versus what's the opposite of true nourishment? I don't know, just gluttony or something. So that's what that placement is signifying. At the same time, let me see what else we still have the other nasty elements playing out, but that's what's major for that time. Saturn again conjuncting the North Node, so a lot of these stuff is really pushing us and nodding us towards our, I don't want to say divinity or anything too cosmic or woozy, but our path, our spiritual path, our destiny, where we should be. And so it's a real powerful time. It's a real powerful time amongst all of the challenges. Like, we're really truly getting to identify what we value or what we deem valuable in the long run, and what we want to hold on to and procure and perpetuate, going forward for the rest of our existence. And so a really powerful time for us to align our even cravings, our fantasies, what we want with just long-term goals, or making them sustainable, making them purposeful and valuable, if that makes sense. April 26th, one day before the moon becomes new in Taurus. What do we have? I don't see anything major or crazy for this day. We do have that nasty triangle, that red triangle. That's what we're gonna call it, the red triangle, with Mars and Pluto at its strongest, 3 degrees head-on opposition. And so again, that's not a beautiful alignment, because Mars is going to be pushing us to be the center stage of something, whatever we put our mind to. Sun needs to be slowed down, but Pluto is destroying something. So we need to look out for that for the whole week. But moon does something interesting, it conjuncts Neptune 0 degrees, it conjuncts Mercury 10 degrees, conjuncts Chiron. So the moon is what our mood is. So I could see it being quite moody. Moon doesn't necessarily like to be in Aries, because moon again, it's exalted in Taurus, so it's slow, comfortable, emotional stability. And because it's going to be conjuncting or aspecting so many planets within such a short period of time during this week, we're talking about, it's in Aquarius right now at the recording of this video, but it has to conjunct the node, Saturn, Venus, Neptune, Mercury, and Chiron, right? So just imagine your mood being touched by so many different planets. Like, it could be quite emotional over those coming days, with all of those planets adding different influences and energies. So that's the major thing to look out for just before the moon becomes new. And it's going to be like a draining process. So if you feel drained at coming up to the end of the week, the 26th was that Saturday, if you're feeling extremely drained, what I'm saying, then better believe that we're having a strong waning moon, where our mood or the energy from the moon is just like being all released as we tie up our last little knots. But at the same time, we're keeping in the back of our mind, or maybe the front of our mind, because what's the forefront is the new moon that we're going to be experiencing on the 27th. So on the new moon, or on the 27th, we have the new moon in Taurus, which is a great moon. I mean, you can't have a better moon than a new moon in Taurus, other than like a full moon in Taurus. But a new moon in Taurus, to me, one of the most powerful new moons we're going to be having. We're just setting new intentions for longevity, setting new intentions with a deep understanding of what truly matters, what is truly valuable to us, what we see as valuable, even if the world doesn't validate it. You know what I mean? And so it's going to be a powerful full moon to just set those new intentions about your longevity. Beautiful new moon. Still have those nasty aspects with Pluto, with Mars, with Lilith. And the Lilith is going to be opposing this sun moon conjunction as well. And so new moons are beautiful because it's a conjunction. And so sun is here, our attention is here, our mood is here. It's like in perfect alignment, and it's opposing Lilith. So we really get to see what we want, or what we need to pull closer to us, or have, or just be more authentic with. What I'm saying? I think we're gonna make another video specifically about this Lilith alignment, because it's potent like throughout the whole week, even throughout the whole month of this Taurus season. On the 28th of April, the moon conjuncts Uranus. All right, so moon loves to be in Taurus. Uranus has been in Taurus for some time, just bringing in changes in how we stabilize ourselves, how we organize ourselves, and how we structure ourselves. And so we could expect just changes, especially with our mood, because moon is conjuncting, so mood is going to shift. But what's going to shift our mood, what's going to disturb this comfort, this flow, this tranquila that we've been longing for and experiencing with this moon in Taurus? Now, it doesn't happen until later in the evening, around 8:23. So the day may seem calm, the 27th, the 28th, but in the evening, yeah, we gotta look out for that. We gotta look out for that strong conjunction with Uranus. Also, Mars still opposing Pluto, which is a very strong alignment. Remember, the Pope died when this alignment was becoming at its most intense. All right, We're gonna just fast forward one more day to see what happens on the 29th, where Moon slides into Gemini. No major aspects on that day, but it's going to slowly get closer to Jupiter, where it's going to conjunct. Beautiful for learning, socializing, sharing information, just feeling expanded and having expanded situations, thinking about opportunities to, expand. Sun being in Taurus again, feminine abundance. That could be a good day for, expanding in some way, shape, or form. All right. So overall, when we look at this week, we do have some difficult alignments. I can't tell no lie, like that Mars opposing Pluto, squaring off with Lilith, happening for the whole week. And so there are going to be changes. It seems like Mars is again forcing us to be center stage, or giving us that gas to overdo a situation, to be too extreme. So we don't want to be too extreme, especially with Sun being here in Taurus, where we need to, slow down and really nurture and take care of things and have a certain level of aesthetic. Taurus is about aesthetical composure and beauty. So we want to look good, smell good, feel good, amongst everything that's happening. Yeah. All right. So this week seems like it's gonna be, quite challenging until we get later on in the week. We got the new moon, where it's like a bit of calm, but we're trying to like create some new vibe, and then we conjunct Uranus and have a change or even a breakthrough. So I feel like, coming up to the new moon, like having those new intentions, like really trying to project into the universe your intentions. I mean, it may not happen, but what if your intentionality does affect the cosmos? Major farewell until we meet or greet again. Kevin's Major here, helping you to do major using the insights of astrology. Anything we miss? We miss nothing. Okay, Neptune, and then with Saturn. Saturn gonna go into, so we gotta do a video about Saturn. Alright, major farewell until we meet or greet again. Kevin's Major here, doing it major, helping you to do major with the insights of astrology. See you guys in the next video.